This evening I share with you a message entitled God's Terms, and it is a play on words. The definition of a term is not just the words that we use to explain something, but it is also sometimes greater than us. So when we acknowledge that God is greater than us, by that same definition, it follows that we cannot fully understand Him. If we could understand God completely, we would be equal with Him. We would have that full understanding. But because God is greater than us, our expectation should be that we are going to be revealed on His terms that He has given to us. Because God is greater than us, we have to rely on what He chooses to reveal. We can only understand that which He has given of Himself. We cannot understand more than that. That is our responsibility, to understand what God has revealed. We must approach God on His terms, not on our own. The purpose of His revelation is to make Himself known to us. That is why He has revealed Himself, so that we can know Him, even though He cannot be fully known. And so we see the Creator, our terms, to explain His terms. What I enjoy about the walk of Christianity is not just the facts, the history, all of the evidence that we have, and there's plenty of it. It's not the only aspect I enjoy about my Christian faith, although I do enjoy that. Bread, salt, water, light. But yet the depth of those we will never fully understand. Some of the terms that God gives are inexplicable. There are no words to describe it. But yet it is acceptable. Even though I don't fully understand God's character, I don't fully understand the way that He has dealt with humanity, I can still accept it. So that with Paul the Apostle, we have to get to that point of declaring the unsearchable riches of Christ. How do we declare the unsearchable riches? That's the role of Christianity. It is revealing a God who is far beyond our knowledge, but yet revealing Him. I'd like to share just three terms. Three terms that challenge me in my Christian walk about who God is and how He deals with me. So terms in the actual words that are used, but also terms in the conditions that God has set between us. The first is God's grace. God's grace. It's something that we will grapple with for all of our Christian walk. There is a story told in Exodus chapter 16 of the nation of Israel as they had been taken out of Egypt as slaves. They were taken into the desert, led by Moses, and there they found themselves in the desert with nothing. So hundreds of thousands of people, no food. And the Israelites didn't need an invitation to moan. So imagine being hungry and groaning. They found anything to moan about. They didn't care about God. They rebelled against Moses, God's chosen leader. The whole time, it was tough. It was difficult. But yet they got their bread every day. Why? Because that's what God's grace is. God's grace is unmerited favor. God's grace is not deserved. It is God's prerogative. It is His work, not based on ours. And so we see that in the gospel, after the nation of Israel now had gone through the desert, in the gospels, the bread becomes an important part of the story. In John chapter 6, we read together from verse 25 to verse 35. This is just after Jesus had fed the 5,000. So He was preaching to the crowd again. They were hungry and probably moaning again. And Jesus then feeds the 5,000. The very next day, this takes place. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Because he had just walked on the water and they didn't understand how he got there. Jesus answered them and said, most assuredly I say to you, you seek me, not because you saw the signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. In other words, your tummy was full. That's why you're interested in me. But do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him. Then they said to him, what shall we do that we may work the works of God? Jesus answered and said to them, this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he sent. Therefore they said to him, what sign will you perform then, that we may see it and believe you? What work will you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the desert, as it is written. He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said to them, most assuredly I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Then they said to him, Lord, give us this bread always. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me. Did they get the concept? That the person standing in front of them was going to be the answer to life? It is only after Christ's death at the Last Supper when he gives to his disciples the bread and he says to them, take, eat, this is my body, broken for you. Later on, Paul the Apostle repeats that in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, and he gives to us the instructions about communion. And what is the purpose of that? It is because of Christ's broken body, because he is the bread of life, that we have everlasting life. That is how God sustains us. And my question, if that is God's provision, God has provided the bread of life. We accept that bread. That's what makes us Christians. So we accept the one whom God has sent. The question I then ask is, do you deserve it? As you walk your Christian walk, you're going to get to that point. In your understanding and in your maturing, you're going to get to that point of, I don't deserve this, not mine. You see, when I come to God and I say, well, Lord, I'm battling with this concept that you can accept me as a sinner just as I am. I'm battling with the concept. Well, the good news is the concept's not yours. It's his. It's God's terms. God has decided to give to us his grace. That's his decision. It's not mine. I don't have to come up with reasons as to why I deserve it, because the very definition of grace is that I don't deserve it. So every single time in my Christian walk that I get to that place where I say, I'm not worthy. My thinking is not right. My lifestyle's not right. My choices are not right. There are things that I do that are not pleasing to the Lord. I get to that place. And what's my answer? My answer is the bread of life. My answer is God's terms, not mine. My answer is, by definition, God's grace means I don't deserve it. And then I sit back, and all I can do is say, thank you, Lord.